Hey everybody, this is Sabrina. Welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited that you're here, and I will be doing another Reading Journal 2023 setup video. I have several challenges that I'm going to do and that I want to set up in this video. So I'm going to share it with you, and it's going to be a little bit of a longer video, but I think it's going to be worth it because I have lots of fantastic pages to share with you. So in my first setup video, I mentioned my Goodreads challenge and how I wanted to do it different and maybe do a game board. At least I think I mentioned that. So my intention is to draw some squares, and the squares are going to be large enough that when I cut them into quarters, I can do 4 books. So each square is going to have, divided into 4, and it'll represent 4 books. I just have to figure out the layout of this game board. Do I know how I'm going to create this? No. Am I going to wind up making a huge, I don't know, not a huge mess, but it starts to go not the way that I was planning, because I was hoping to do this more twisty and turny. That's not a word, but you know what I mean. I was trying to do it with a little more twist in it, and I was not getting that. But in the end, I do get maybe a game board. We can just call it a game board. It's my reading journal, so we'll call it a game board in the end. You can see that I also decided to highlight the boxes. That way it gives it a little bit more definition. And I am just gonna continue going with this design of a big box, so that way I can do 4 in each of them. Each of the bigger squares. And like I said, my intention is the game board. So you can see I'm trying to go down and curve it, and it's going to wind up not being that way, which is okay. Okay, so I have the start of my game board on the left-hand side, and I'm just going to carry it over to the right-hand side, and I kind of have a backwards S going. And I'm going to continue the bottom row all the way across to the end of the page, and then I'm going to do another count to make sure that I am getting enough books. I do realize that I'm going to break one of the boxes, so that way 2 little sections are on the left and 2 are on the right, and that way I can continue that row all the way across. So I'm quickly realizing that I'm going to need a lot more boxes than I think, and I'm just going to keep drawing and counting until I can finally get the count that I want, which is about 120. But you guys, I think I got so carried away with all these boxes that I wound up doing like 150. I have no idea. You guys, I was just making this a little bit more complicated. So it's a great idea that I came up with, and I really like the end result, and thank you for sticking with me. But goodness, you guys, I am hilarious as I'm trying to make this game board. I probably should have printed out something for inspiration, but I'm going to keep going until I get something that looks like a game board. Okay, so I have a game board that is going to work, and I will put start up at the top. And for the amount of books that I read in a month, that's what the little squares that I will fill in. And so if it's not in increments of 4, then I will just use a smaller monthly stamp on the little squares. But I did stamp a big January. That way you can kind of see what my intention is to stamp the month, and then I will color in the squares depending on how many books I read. I'm adding in a little bit of stamping and some die cuts with the plant and some books in the corner, and then some stamps, stamp stars. I believe that one was from Mandy Ford, and some books kind of down at the bottom, and I just trimmed off the bottom of the books. So it looks like that they are peeking. I also added a favorite stamp sentiment that I have to stop myself from using on everything, which is when in doubt, go to the library, because I love the library. Whew. Okay, Goodreads is done, and now moving on to a new challenge that I've never done before, but I'm very excited about. And I talked about it in my first setup video, I believe, and it is the Read Around the USA Challenge. You sign up for it with your email, and then they'll send you the printable. And I took the printable, printed it out, and then cut the different sections, because they take the United States and they break it up into chunks based on the months. And what you do is you read one book from each of the sections. Mind you, I thought you had to read a book from every single state. No, you just read one book from each section, which is totally manageable. In the end, that's only 12 books. But because I thought that it was a lot more books, that's why I'm going to add this insert. But I really like the insert because then I can write a few thoughts on the books and my rating. And yeah, I love the insert. This whole spread turned out really awesome. And so I'm excited for you guys to see me put this together. So I cut out the map, I placed it, and as you can see, I have a section kind of the middle of the country with Kansas and Nebraska, and I will probably have to cut that apart so that way it can go across both spreads, which is fine since I am kind of staggering the United States map because I want a little bit of gaps in between the map. So I will cut apart Nebraska and Kansas, put it on the left, and then the rest of it will go on the other side. I'm going to do the same thing for the Texas, Oklahoma section, and it's going to turn out fantastic. So I'm just trying to figure out how I want to lay these out, and you can see it's really simple and easy. The map also has the months attached to it, of course, but I'm going to go ahead and cut those off and stamp my own months because I wanted to use my Everyday Explorers mini calendar stamp set, so I'm going to use that. I took my bone folder and my scoring board and I scored a piece of paper so that way I could do the insert for the months. I'll write down the book I read, the rating, maybe even put in the cover of the book. I'm not sure yet, but I'll have that big insert to cover all the years, not the years, all the months in this year. So I'm going to put down the different sections. This one is California and Nevada, which I believe is August. Yeah, that's August. And so you just pick a book from that section and then you've finished that little portion of the country. And if they give you like an amazingly fantastic detailed list for the current section. So like the January section, I don't even know how many books they had, but it was a lot of great books. So there's a lot of books to choose from, and it's really awesome that these ladies put this together. It's really cool. So the next section, it has Idaho and North and South Dakota and Alaska, and that's October. The next one is kind of the Southwest, which is Arizona and New Mexico, and that will be in February. And after that, I will do the Texas, I believe. Maybe that's the next section. I wanted to scoot down the orange section just a little bit, and once I get the sections put down, I can go ahead and put down the month. So yes, I'm doing Texas and Oklahoma next, and that section of states will be read in July. So that'll be a fun summer set of states to read about. I'm going to continue building my map on the right-hand side and filling in the different sections of states. Say that 10 times fast. Sections of states. Feels like that is a tongue twister. I will wind up putting May in a different spot. I'm going to cover up May with the March section, and then I'll just put May on its own over on the left-hand side, kind of floating in the middle of the country, which works just fine. There is also a fun section for September that is called traveling. And I think the intention behind that little section is to read a book where the characters are like on a road trip or travel between several different states. So that should be fun to do that section in September. I am finishing up with the last two sections, like New England. It's going to be a November section, June, and then January. The start of this challenge takes place in Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, and Rhode Island. And if you guys have any suggestions for books in any states, let me know. I think for January, I'm going to either read Hester or Mad Honey. Those are the books that I have picked out for this section in January. So now I can work on my insert. I'm going to put the little title of the challenge, Read Around the USA, and I'll get the paper person washi tape and add that to the top and the bottom of this little insert. And I'll also stamp January. So it's a great little insert that I have to add in, like I said, the little details of the challenge. And I'm going to bullet point a list of 5 because, like I said in a little while ago, I thought that I had to do a book from every single state, which would have been a lot. That would have been a lot to do. And you can see here, I was trying to do the numbers and I was like, the numbers aren't going to work. So I just needed to bullet point it and call it good, which I'm glad I did it that way, since that will be kind of easier to cover up when I go to fill in the information for what book I decided to read. So there you go. That is the United States, and I got it all put together and I absolutely love it. So the next one I'm going to do is genres, and I'm using Resting Book Face by Syncopation Design. And she has this whole stamp set with all the different genres you could think of, and it's fantastic. And I absolutely was so excited to be able to use this stamp set and to kind of track my genres in a different way. Last year, I had a genres section in my journal. It was just tally marks. So this is kind of an upgraded tally marks because I get these adorable, awesome little stamps with all the different genres. And it'll make it easier to see visually what the different genres are. So the ones I picked to include is historical fiction, young adult, mystery, fantasy, children's, romance, nonfiction, supernatural, LGBTQIA+, BIPOC, horror, and sci-fi. So a wide variety of different genres that I can read. And I'm just going to keep it very simple as far as the stamping, like the extra stamping. So I'll just put a little sentiment towards the end of this page making, and I will stamp I love reading, added in some scalloped black washi. And then I get to color, which is so exciting. I thought about using my markers, but I decided I wanted to just use colored pencils. So I'm just grabbing a bunch of different colored pencils and filling in the little different icons. So like horror has like a hand coming up out of a grave, which is really cool. Children's has 2 kids high-fiving. The fantasy has a dragon, which I'm going to color like 2 different colors. So that way the scales are like a different color. This was so much fun, you guys, to color in all these different genres. And then nonfiction has a chemistry set on a book because I am aiming to try to read at least 3 nonfiction books. I think that was my goal. And I'm just going to add 2 lines to right below the genres. That way I can just tally up the genres that I read as I go through the year. And then after that, I just add the stamp sentiment that says, I love reading. I'm going to cut off some of the washi tape since it was a little longer than I wanted. And that's it. Like I said, I'm keeping this very simple and clean for this one. I could have added like some more layered stamping, but decided this was enough. Next up is these 2 pages. I have my titles, 2023 goals and A to Z. Now, I got the idea for 2023 goals from Elle. I've talked about her before, but she does an amazing job with her reading journals, and she gives you all this amazing information about all the different challenges. And she did goals in her page, so that's what I'm going to do after the A to Z. I have this really old typewriter stamp set from Ali Edwards, and that's what I'm going to use for my alphabet. If I know my alphabet, because as I'm stamping, I realize, wait a second, I forgot G. So I get out my spare piece of paper and stamp GHIJ, and then I will just adhere that over the top. Oh my goodness, I couldn't believe that I did that, but oh well. It happens, right? So I'm going to space out my next line a little bit. I use my pencil to make sure that I get to like even rows, and then I continue stamping all the way to XYZ. And XYZ I have to put next to each other, which is fine because I usually don't get those letters, but sometimes I'll get Y. And believe it or not, I think last year I didn't get K, which was different. I would have thought I would have gotten a K letter, but I didn't. So I just erased the lines, and A to Z is done. Now I'm going to work on 2023 goals. Now this page, like this whole setup for 2023 goals, could have been an entire like 2-page, double-page spread, just so that way I could spread out my goals, but I decided to squish it into one, and it's going to make things a little bit difficult, but I have some tricks to like cover up the boo-boos or the accidents, I guess you could say. So it's going to turn out great, I think. I use the Ali Edwards number stamp that I use for everything because it has like so many different fonts in it, and I stamp out my 7 different goals that I have, then I will write them out. So it's 100 books, read and finish 10 series, 20 middle grade books, 15 graphic novels, 8 Goodreads winners, nominees, 3 nonfiction, and 3 classics, which is a lot of goals for me because especially with nonfiction and classics, I don't read a lot of those, but we shall see. We shall see how this is going to go. I look in my stamps section and I find the Everyday Explorers, like this 8 squares stamp, and I'm going to go ahead and use that. And I don't quite realize how close I have everything, so that's going to make everything a little bit tricky. I do realize that I can take the boxes in number 3 and split them in half, so that way I have 10 boxes split in half makes 20. So that works out perfect. And then I am going to use a spare piece of paper to help me out with some of the boo-boos or mistakes like I was talking about. I am finishing up with the stamping, the first round of stamping, I guess you could say, and I will then fill in my mistakes. I think I had a mistake on the 3 classics, so I just covered it up. Same thing with nonfiction, and then up at the top for 100 books, I had to fix that one. And graphic novels, I needed to cover that up because I think I stamped too many on the graphic novels, and I'll split each of those boxes into thirds. There was really no other way for number 4 that I could have added more boxes. It just wasn't possible. And I'm adding like a whole row to the 100 books because I wound up stamping it and it didn't look like a full square. So just using this adhered down row of books works perfect. And then I just add 2 on the top of it because I think I was going for a total of 10. So each of those squares for 100 books equals 10 books. So I got it all figured out. I got all my squares, and it really helped to have that extra spare piece of paper. I'm going to add in some floral stamping with Everyday Explorer stamps and also Ali Edwards stamps. I goofed on the flower kind of in the middle where the coils are, but it's okay. You can't really tell. Stamp a pink center, and I really love how it turned out. It turned out really cute. Okay, so the next challenge is going to be Rate the Romance, and this is a challenge put together by Emile. I believe that's how you say her name. Oh, I'm not good with names, but I will leave a link for her, and she gives you the free template. I just took a screenshot and then resized it to the size I wanted and printed it out. And all I'm going to do is the same thing as last year, just little pieces of paper to put the book covers on, and then flip it up and you can still see what the category was. And I just added some hearts, and that's it. Easy peasy. Now, the Bloom Challenge, not so easy. As far as I know, Stephanie Howell, who has put together this challenge for several years, has not put out the new list of prompts, which is totally fine. But I don't know what happened, you guys. I have no idea what happened. I took this piece of paper as kind of my stencil, and I was like, okay, this is a good size book. I really didn't want to do a flip out like I did last year, and I wanted to do the books a little bit bigger. Not realizing what I'm doing, I get to the 6th box, draw it, and I'm like, what am I doing? There is no way I'm going to fit all 24 books from the challenge. And I was going to rip it up. I was going to throw it away. And I was trying to figure out how was I going to kind of quote unquote fix this. So I decided to take the pressure off myself, and I will just draw a total of 12 boxes. Yeah, 3, 6, 9, 12. Yeah, 12 boxes. And that way I pick 12 books from the challenge and call that good enough. And I didn't fix the extra lines over on the left-hand side. Don't ask me why I drew those lines. I don't know. I thought maybe the rating stamp could fit in there. Obviously, it's not going to fit in there. It's too small. So, I didn't rip it up and I didn't get too mad at myself, but I wasn't sure what I was doing. But I am going to have a lot of fun making some flowers at the bottom. I have a new stamp set from Ali Edwards, and I'm just using that stamp set in a variety of different colors, yellow and green and red and pink, and I'm having the best time stamping this. And I think overall, once the book covers get placed down, it's going to look a lot better. And I'm glad I took the pressure off myself to do like all 24, since I am doing a few more challenges this year. I want to keep it less stressful. I also love how that flower stamp set had like a middle, like several different middles that you could stamp for the center of the flower. So that was really fun. I also am going to stamp "The world is yours to explore." And I got the genius idea to stamp an outline of a book. And so I stamped that several times. And that wraps up the Bloom Challenge. Okay, one last challenge. I saw this floating around as I was working on my reading journal, and I was like, okay, I haven't started January yet, so I can add this in. 12 books, 12 friends. If you follow me on Instagram, you saw that I asked my Instagram friends and followers, what book would you recommend? And I had so many amazing suggestions. Now, several of them I had already read, so I didn't pick those, but I was able to pick a really great variety of books. And you'll see I have my Post-it note, and I think I numbered my Post-it note wrong, because I think I actually wound up with 13 or 14 books. Because once I finished this, I was like, wait a second, somebody recommended Demon Copperhead. And I was like, I didn't print that book cover. And then there was another book that I didn't print, but I have 12 here, and they are really awesome books, and I'm so excited to read them. I'm doing rows of 3, and I found an Everyday Explorer stamp that says recommended by. So in the top row, I have Bookends by Jane Green, a nonfiction called 84 Sharing Road. I think that's what it's called, Sharing Cross Road. Dreamland, The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter, Sugar Daddy. I'm also going to try a Stephen King book, which I'm very excited about. How to Stop Time, which is from the same author as Midnight Library. Flawless, which is a romance book I'm very excited about. And They Never Learn, and We Were the Lucky Ones, which is like a World War II historical fiction book. So there is a lot of great books that I have, and this is my Post-it note where I'm going to write who recommended the book to me. There was 2 that I didn't write down the name for some reason. I don't know what happened, but I'm going to fix that later on. But I wrote down who recommended it, and then I think I'm thinking once I finish the book, I can go ahead and like outline the book or something like that. But I love this page and I'm glad I decided to add this extra challenge in. Just gonna add some rainbow heart washi at the end. And now I will show you all of my pages. My reading journal is officially set up. So excited, and I hope you guys have enjoyed seeing this video and my other one and the setup, and thank you for enjoying my reading journal. I so love making this and I appreciate you being here. I'd love a thumbs up or a subscribe if you are new to my channel. Have a great day. Bye.